Hi everyone, my name's Riley Miracle and welcome to the Best of Thursday Night Live. We've had a number of great chats with some amazing people over the past few weeks. Today we're going to take a look back at some of the highlights of those chats. We're going to start with Andi Petrillo. Andi is the host of Leafs Lunch on TSN Radio. And he shared a funny little story about her time covering Hockey Day in Canada when it made its stop in Peterborough back in 2013. Here's that story.
Okay, so I was with someone who's a dear friend, but somebody I do work with still at CBC Sports, Nadia. She works in our marketing department, but we drove down together, and I can't remember where we were going, but I think we were making our way to the rink. Anyway, so she was driving right away. It wasn't me. I'm already doing the finger point. It wasn't me who was driving. But there was a ton of snow in Peterborough that year, and she decided to drive over this, what I thought was a mountain. So she thinks her little car is going to make it over. And now we're just like this pendulum. Like we were literally stuck on this mound of snow and it was freezing and neither of us wanted to get out because we're also lazy. So we sat in the car and we thought if we rocked back and forth enough that we would force the car to go one way. And I think we were doing that for quite some time.
On March 18th, we were joined by Matt Devlin. Now, Matt is the play-by-play voice of the Toronto Raptors and was there for the entire championship run back in 2019. Here's Matt sharing some of those highlights from that championship run.
4.2 seconds on the clock. It's a tie game, and your mind goes to, don't mess this up. And but above and beyond that, you're really just trying to, relay to the fans time, score, and then ultimately, if the shot goes, what does that mean? And if the shot is missed, what does that mean, right? And obviously, as we know, the shot was made and the Raptors win. And it was, I'll never forget afterwards being asked by multiple people, what did you say? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea what I said. They're like, you don't, I said, no, it happened in front of me and it happened like in slow motion. And the shot ultimately, after bouncing 4 times, went through, but I couldn't tell you what I said.
On March 25th, we were joined by Canadian snowboarder Craig McMorris. Craig does play-by-play for the X Games and the Olympic Games, but during this past year's X Games, he was caught in a little bit of a tricky situation with the pandemic. Here's that story.
Well, I actually kind of got thrown in a bit of a pickle because I had my trip all planned and I was coming in out of Alberta and doing the pilot program there. But before, like 2 days before, they implemented flying into America. If you're not an American citizen, you have to have a PCR test. So I was scrambling trying to get a PCR test. And I called my producer, the executive producer. I'm like, hey, I need to get a test now. I don't know if I'm going to make it in time. And he was like, okay, well, just do your best. So I am like literally waiting, sweating bullets on the last flight out. And I'm standing in line waiting to check in. And the lady's like, well, we're about to close check-in. Like, can I help you? And then the test result came through on my email right then and there. And I would just breathe a huge sigh of relief, showed it to them. That was pretty gnarly. So I'm very, very happy I got on the plane down there. Didn't miss an event. So that was cool. But it was really intense because it's a Disney operation. Like ESPN's owned by Disney and ESPN owns the X Games. So they were testing everybody that was in the bubble there, like every 2 days, every 3 days. So it felt pretty safe and flew back home and it was cool. It was a wild event. Some of Canada's biggest and brightest stars weren't there due to health reasons. So that was a little bit different, but I'm happy I went down and happy I got to call some live sports because, it's few and far between these days.
On April 1st, we were pleased to be joined by Natalie Spooner. Now, Natalie was a member of the Canadian women's Olympic team back in 2014. She talks about what it was like being a part of that crazy hockey game. Here's that story.
We went through a lot of adversity. Like we lost 4 games straight to the American going into the Olympics. We didn't win many games throughout our training that season. So we had to overcome a lot to get there. And I think that kind of everything we had done before that game was hard. It was really hard. So it really prepared us for that game and for coming back and for being prepared. When we were down, it was like, well, we've come out of situations like this before. We can keep pushing and we can do it. And obviously to do it that little late in the game is the crazy part. But, I think the whole time we just stuck together and we knew, if we kept pushing, they were bound to go in and we'd get a bounce, and that happened and we were able to take it to overtime. And we had, I think, the momentum at that point and we said, let's just, go out and finish this off.
All right, thanks everyone for checking out some of those great moments from the past few Thursday Night Lives. Make sure to tune in this Thursday as we are joined by former Toronto Argonaut and Canadian Football Hall of Famer Damon Allen.